Hello, everyone, and welcome to Paranormal Round Table. I'm your host, Josh Turner, and this is our show. This is PRT. That stands for Paranormal Round Table, in case you didn't figure that out, or a pretty righteous time. But seriously, folks, I have with me tonight, I have two co-hosts. One is Anthony, my nephew.
Good evening, everyone.
And the other one is...
Nelly.
Okay,
Hi.
I was waiting. I was going to announce it, but she was like, she was just nodding her head. Folks, you couldn't see it, but she was just goofily, is that a word, goofily? She was goofily nodding her head. I just made up a new word, too.
She forgot this is in video. It's just audio.
She was just nodding her head like, yeah, I'm here. Okay, so... Okay, so let's get the chuckles out of the way here because we're going to be talking some serious stuff in a minute. But first things first, it's prtpodcast.com. That's our website, prtpodcast.com. Also, my email address is joshturner@prtpodcast.com, joshturner@prtpodcast.com. We also have groups. We have the Paranormal Encounters. We have Paranormal Lounge, which is Nelly's group, and my group, or our group, I should say, it's all of ours, is Paranormal Round Table. That's the main, that's the big dog. But Nelly, you just hit 2,000
subscribers, yeah.
I'm very proud of you for that. That's awesome. You beat Mushu to 2,000. Seemed like for a while there he was really gonna beat you, but I don't know. Some of the people that were trying to get into paranormal encounters seemed kind of fake to me too. I don't know. It was like, like jumbled up word letters and stuff, like bubblish fisheye. You're like, what? I had to ask Tony about that. I was like, something going on here I should know about. But we also are affiliated with Whisper to a Scream, which is Ryan Tremblay's show, and I was co-hosting that, but we're not really doing anything with it right now because we're trying. Ryan's mother has some health issues. She has cancer, and he's dealing with that. So it's kind of on hold, kind of on pause. Plus, he was having some equipment difficulty. It's a learning curve trying to get a show off the ground, get it started, get it going. And so, yeah, there's a lot there. But we plan on getting it back up and running. But we're going to be releasing these shows that me and him do together, the cryptid shows for Whisper to a Scream. They're going to be being released on Paranormal Round Table in the meantime. The audio was terrible in the Goatman episodes, so that we ended up putting them on to the Paranormal Roundtable show and releasing them there. I hope everybody enjoyed those Goatman origins. And then the Honey Island Swamp Monster we just did with Dana Holyfield. Hope everybody enjoyed that. Now, here's the thing. If you're not subscribed to YouTube and you don't listen to YouTube, which it doesn't cost anything to subscribe. You just hit the subscribe button and you like whatever. If you're a listener to us on one of the other of several platforms that we're on, Spotify, iTunes, whatever, go to YouTube and subscribe. Okay. It helps us out, but also we do a live stream every Tuesday. Okay. Every Tuesday we do a live stream, and here lately it's gotten pretty heated. The last 3 episodes we've done, we have talked about the LBL and the killings in the LBL, and we had Jody Cook on, and then we had the guys from Cryptid Studies Institute on, Johnny Henderson and Elijah Henderson, and they are talking about a witness that came forward that claims that he saw the murders of an Amish family. It was very horrific, and so there's been a big controversy, and and so I've been kind of in the middle of it, not by choice. It just kind of happened. I mean, like I kept getting videos of this, horrific incident, and it was being covered by the Cryptid Studies Institute, and I was kind of ignoring it at first, and then I said, okay, I checked one out. I checked it out. It was a little over an hour with you, Nelly. We watched it, and I thought, wow, this guy's telling his story. So I touched on it on my Tuesday live stream. And the next thing you know, a big war blew up in the comment section, which we had to take down a bunch of comments. But the people who were involved in bringing him on, they ended up coming on my show subsequently. And then Jody Cook, of course, had come on and told his side of it and why he believes that the guy wasn't telling the truth. And then, so it's gone back and forth. And we're hoping that maybe we'll get Roger on soon. But I think he's got something going with possibly the Travel Channel. I'm not 100% about that, but that's the rumor. So that's what's going on with that. So just stay tuned, folks, and go to YouTube and check out our live stream. You won't be disappointed. So what else do we got going on here? We have
we can't forget we also have our Willie Williams art contest going on.
Yes.
And this week's scripted is going to be Mothman.
This month.
I'm sorry. This month's scripted is going to be Mothman. So all you artists out there who listen to us, whether you're a digital artist or a hand-drawn artist, doesn't really matter. In whatever way you make art, if you can make a drawing or a rendition of a Mothman and submit it, then you'll be entered into the contest. There's, 3 winners, right? First, second, third place?
First, second, third place, yeah. And we had debated about whether the digital should be allowed, but, I mean, if people draw it on the computer, that's...
Well, I mean, why not have why not put them in separate categories? Have a digital contest and a hand-drawn contest.
Okay, so you're going to pay for that? All right, that's cool. So there you have it, folks. Anthony will be paying for that. That's awesome.
Never mind. That's not a good idea. Don't listen to me.
Yeah, okay.
Prizes only a good idea stickers. If it's on someone else's dime.
Stickers, yeah. The prizes will be stickers. We have a few SpongeBob stickers left from my little niece's Easter, whatever we got together. We'll give those away. That'll be great. So now here's what's going on, folks. My mom, she's in the hospital as of the recording of this. They were going to do the procedure, then she started bleeding in her brain again. So please keep her in your prayers. Please, please, please get my mother in your prayers. Also, Nellie, your back issues, it's constantly bothering her, and it drives me nuts because I feel bad. I can't do nothing to her. That sounded horrible. I don't mean I can't do nothing to her. Like, shut up. You know what I mean? Funny. I can't do nothing for her. I can't help her. She just wants me to be quiet, and I'd have to sit there, and that's the only thing that seems to help work for her. It's me being quiet. So anyways, that's very hard for me, folks. It's very hard on me. This is very hard on me. So anyways, we need prayers, seriously. And of course, the person we mentioned earlier, Johnny Henderson, his wife's April, and please pray for her too. She needs some prayers. She has cancer. So much cancer going on. I'm just, But anyways, we got to be moving on here. Lot to talk about. Before we move any further, is that it? Do we have anything else we got to discuss?
I don't think we're ready to get into it.
Yeah. Like I said, you got my email address, folks. Oh, there is one other thing before we go forward. Let me go ahead and read this out. We have, because I announced it on the live stream on YouTube. So for you guys who just stubbornly refuse to go and watch me live, shame on you, first of all, but then I have to read this to you. It's our P.O. Box number. If you want to send some stuff, we've actually gotten some pretty cool stuff in the mail. 6001 West Palmer Lane, Suite 370, PMB 131, Austin, Texas 78727. That's the address.
And we'll go ahead and put that in the description box so you don't have to read that every time.
Yeah.
It'll be in the description of each episode on YouTube.
You want to mail us something, some cool something or another you got, and that's fine. Just no live scorpions or anything like that, please, because they do monitor the mail, and you will be held liable for any scorpions that pop out and sting the poor people. All right, so anyways, what we got going on today, I had to psych myself up for this one. We have done 120 episodes, right? I believe. And we've done 15 live streams, and I have not done this subject yet. Now, I did touch on this subject back several weeks ago. And it was I'm gonna tell you right now. It was on episode it was the one I did with my old friend Tony Duran, and it was called Black Hellhounds of Taylor, Texas. And that episode, I'm just going to make sure I'm correct here. was number 105. So in episode 105 of Black Hounds of Taylor, Texas, I had my good friend on that I used to box with, Tony Duran. And we talked about some stuff that had happened to us together, a paranormal experience that we had together, and with a couple of friends of ours. And we talked a little bit about this building that we both worked at. He worked there after I did. I did warn him that the building had issues, to put it mildly. Another one of our friends named Chad, he worked there too, and had some issues in the building. He's not really wanting to come on and talk about it. We had I knew another guy too that actually worked there for a long time. Lost touch with him over the years, but he was pretty freaked out by it. I don't really know what the deal was with this building. If it was just one thing causing all of these incidents, or if it was a plethora of things that were just all coming together. Maybe there was some sort of giant portal there. That's kind of what I've come to the conclusion. Maybe that's what it was. And each floor had its own little circus of things going on. But Tony talks about that a little bit on that show, on that episode. And now I'm going to get into, and I waited to do this show until I was able to get Tony Duran on, and because I wanted to lead into this episode with, him having said, hey, yeah, this place is haunted. It is messed up. Because most of the paranormal incidents that have happened to me, and I've discussed most of them on my show, or many of them, not all of them, but I have talked about a lot of them, and I've had witnesses. It's not like I was just out there, by myself, and something happened. That has happened, but a lot of times these major ones, I've had witnesses. I've had people with me who have experienced these things with me, who've seen it happen, who can witness, they can vouch for me, they can verify that these things really did happen. And Nellie, you and Anthony, being prominent people in my life, you guys have heard many people tell you their versions of stuff that have happened to them when they've been with me. Mm-hmm. And so, but this was one that I kind of have to go alone on, other than with what Tony had said about what happened to him in the building. But I was glad that not glad that he went through some stuff, because I'm not glad that my friend suffered. I'm saying,
just glad that you weren't the only one.
That I wasn't the only one that was willing to talk about it, so that I can come on and talk about it without sounding completely insane. But I'm going to get into this. And I'm telling you, folks, I had to psych myself up for this. Is something that it's been a long time coming, and I'm going to relive this, okay? Now, this happened to me when I was a young kid. I was a kid. I was like 18 when I started working there. Now, unlike a lot of people, I had to work all the time. From the time I was like 15 on, I've always had 1, 2, maybe 3 jobs. I never had parents that really would do things for me, so I kind of had to go it alone. And so working was very important. My tia Rosa, or my aunt Rosa, had told me I was needing a job. I had been fired from my job at Shortstop. Now, folks, if you don't know what a Shortstop is, it's a little burger joint with a little drive-through here in Austin. Pretty tasty burgers. But I beat up someone in the drive-through over a soda that I got incorrect, and they got mouthy and they threw change in my face. So me and my coworker, a guy named Red, we went out there and we beat these guys up in the parking lot.
I never imagine you, of all people, getting violent.
No, it's hard to believe. It is very hard to believe. And
such a big teddy bear.
Then I was fired for no reason other than beating someone about the face, breast, chest, neck, and head area.
It was a system of oppression. That's all it was.
It is.
Fired you.
Absolutely. So I ended up getting fired by a guy who literally, I'm not kidding, my boss, he looked like Urkel. Like, he's like, you're fired. You guys are out of here. And Red was always making fun of him. And he was like, goodbye. Throws his apron in his face. And, we leave. And the guy literally, he even rolled his pants. I swear, he looked like Urkel. And everybody called him Urkel behind his back. But, he was, and then there was another boss named Clifford. He was actually a really good guy. But getting off this topic there, but it's crazy because I got fired. So I didn't have a job. So my aunt told me, hey, why don't you do security? So that day, when she told me to go do security, that began a chapter of my life that has never closed. I was just like, okay, and what do I do in security? She says, well, those security companies are always hiring. They'll hire anybody. And so I was like, great, I'll fit right in. She's like, just go over there, and I had been in trouble as a kid, but I didn't have an adult record yet because I had only been considered an adult for several months. And luckily, the beating the took place when I was only 17, so I wasn't like, so I was 18 years old. And so I went to apply for a company. Now, I don't want to say the name of it because I don't know. It was a company out of California. And this was back in the early to mid 90s. And that company is, I believe, let's see, they're not around in Austin anymore, but they may still be out there in California. So I don't want to say, they were a very large company and they had all of the downtown building contracts. And so I worked for a few of those different buildings. Now, I got the job. I walked in, they checked my pulse and they said, hey, you're alive. So they gave me the job. It wasn't hard. And they paid a little more than most other jobs that I had. So they asked me, I met a guy, his name was John Jackson. He was a really good guy. And he told me, he's the one that helped me get my company started too, my business, whatever, when he retired. Now, he told me, he says, do you want to make some money, like actually make some money, or do you want to just work? And I was like, what does that mean? He goes, well, I got 2 accounts that pay more than the others, and I have a hard time staffing them. And I was desperate. I needed money. And so I said, okay. So the first job he put me at was at a recycling center on the east side, and it was straight up ghetto hood. I mean, the people that would try to break in on a nightly basis, it was bad. And so I got to where I wasn't even wearing my uniform. I was just out there wearing a regular T-shirt, because I had heard that one of the other guards had gotten shot at because he looked kind of coppish, and so they shot at him. And so I had a dog that I would take out there with me, and he wasn't a tough dog or anything. He was useless, but at least I had a companion, And something kind of creepy that happened to me there. Now, I'll tell you about that. I was turning the corner one time, doing my rounds. We had this D-Tex with this, it looked like a giant canteen. It's something so old and archaic that we would never even, Anthony, you've never even seen one of these things. And you stuck it on the little deal and you twisted it and you keyed it in, and that's how it punched a paper and it showed them that you were there at that time doing that particular hit. So I was doing my round and I saw what I thought was a man laying in the ditch in the edge of the property that kind of sloped down. And as I walked over there to it, I saw this sort of like what I thought was like a shadow get up and move toward the fence. And then it was like when I shone my light, it was gone. So that kind of freaked me out. And it was a very creepy place. And I was not really so afraid of like spirits or anything there as I was just homeless people that were really like bad over there. Yeah. And then of the thugs that would hang out over there. And I was just like, them breaking in and cutting my throat was kind of my worry. So that was probably the only like kind of roguish account that company actually had. So I went back to my boss and I said, thanks, but no thanks. I don't really want this assignment. And, I'd rather have something else. What is the other account you're talking about that pays $1 more, than the other accounts? And he goes, well, he's like, do you believe in ghosts? When he asked me that, he said it with a laugh because Jackson was one of those people, if he did believe in ghosts, he never let on. He did, however, tell me a Bigfoot story, which I believe I had told one time. But he kind of believed in that because it was something that he had experienced, but he never believed in ghosts. So he was kind of like, you believe in ghosts? And he kind of laughed. And I was like, well, I guess, yeah, I had some experiences up to that point when I was a kid. And I thought, well, yeah, I guess they exist. And I did think back to what I had seen, like that shadow thing, and I thought, like, what are we talking about here? Are we talking Amityville Horror or are we talking about like Casper? Yeah. There's a huge range of ghosts. So he told me, he says, well, I'm having a hard time staffing this building because people believe in ghosts. I got 2 solid guys there, but I need 4 guards, and the other 2 slots are just I cannot keep them filled. So I need somebody that can go over there and not be afraid and do their job. And I thought, you know what, I'll give it a shot. Put me in, coach. Anyways, I he put me at this place, and I don't want to say the name of the building or where it's at because I don't know if I don't want people going and messing around and them saying, oh yeah, I've heard Josh Turner talking about it.
Yeah, you don't want to be liable for
I don't want to be liable for something. Yeah. And it is close to a ghost tour. There's a couple of them here in Austin. And Nelly, when we did the ghost tour, there was a restaurant not far from there that's haunted, notoriously haunted. And we went to that restaurant, and then I showed you the building that's not that far from it. Now, that's all I'm going to tell you. There is a convenience store that's close by. And then, I'm not going to give any more than that. So I go to work for this at this building. My first night there, I showed up early. I was eager to not be working in the summertime out at the recycling centers. I was like glad. I walked in. I was like, oh, it's air conditioned. It's nice. It was like a whole nother world than what I was doing. And so I was happy to be there. And I met these two guys. One's name was Donald. We called him Donnie. And the other guy was Zachary, and we called him Zach. And so one was a black guy, Donnie. He was from the southeast Austin. And the other guy was named Zach, and he was from northwest Austin. And they couldn't have been from two different places. I mean, Donnie was very street. He was from a bad area. Zach grew up in a nice upper middle class neighborhood. They were completely different people, like polar opposites. But they got along great. They were friends. They had been working there. Donnie had been there for about 8 months. Zach had been there for over a year. So I'm thinking, if this place is so haunted, then, why are these guys, what's the big deal?
Yeah, it didn't scare them off.
It didn't scare them, and then there was a guy that was a lieutenant that was the boss, but he was only there during the day for 6, 7, 8 hours a day, whatever. And then he turned the building over to everybody else. It was run by a company that did manage 2 or 3 of the other buildings. A management company, and there was a lady that worked there. I'll call her Linda, and she would show up every now and then. But she was very unfriendly, not a nice person, rude, very snarky, and plus you're a kid. She treated me like a punk kid, and I didn't like her. She was the one kind of in charge, our liaison or whatever you want to call it, the person that we would deal with, the client. And apparently the owner was he was a very eccentric individual who had this place built. He was very weird. There was a lot of weird stuff in that place. And so without giving it away, or saying too much or whatever, it was a bank building at that time. And so my first day there, I got there early and I was all eager, and started talking to Donald, and he introduced himself, and he asked me, how long I'd been with the company. I told him I had been on post for about 4 or 5 weeks at a little over a month at the other site. Told him where I was at, and he was like, "Oh, that place is terrible." He's like, "I filled in one night over there. It's bad." And I was like, "So how does this stack up to that?" He goes, "Oh, this is a cakewalk." He's like, "As long as you're not easily spooked." And I was like, "Well, okay. Well, I'm not a scaredy cat, I'm not, it's not going to spook me, whatever." Well, I figured out that I am a sensitive, maybe even beyond a sensitive. I'm an experiencer. And so if something's around, I'll notice it. I'll feel it. I can, I know it's there. Sometimes I'll see it or hear it. And so it wasn't a place for me. It wasn't that kind of a place that I should have been. So they showed me around, and he showed me around. And then later that evening, my first 2 hours in, I hadn't even done a patrol yet. Zach showed up, and it was real nice. And they were very accommodating. And Zach's like, he goes, "Man, I really hope that you stay." He brought me some food, and we talked, and we hit it off right away. He was a good kid. I liked him and Donnie. Both of them were great guys, and they got along real well. And they even hung out sometimes outside of work. And so I thought, man, these guys are cool, And so I worked 5 days a week at that time, 5 shifts. I worked Tuesday through Saturday, or Tuesday through Saturday, and I was off Sunday and Monday. So there was another kid that they hired to work the other 2 days. He was just a part-time college kid. and I think his name was Taylor or Tyler or something. It started with a T. I can't, he was so short lived there. I can't remember his name. And so he came in to train with me after I had only been there for about a week, and then Zach showed up that night, and so. But that's getting a little ahead of what's going on here. So this was like the first night, and then Zach said he showed me around. He took me up to the top floor, and it was really cool. They have like this little area where you can walk around the building. If you're scared of heights, I wouldn't suggest it, and I am. But back then I was a different person, and I walked around it, and I thought, wow, the city's beautiful. You can see it. I sat up there and I would read books. That's kind of what I did. So I sat up there the first night, and on my patrol, I was reading a book. And I remember looking out over the city and thinking, man, this is a nice pose. This is peaceful. It's calm. There's a nice breeze. It's like they had a helicopter landing pad on the very top, which was kind of unusual. And I decided to go and hang out up there and stand there and I brought a camera. The second night, I brought a camera and took some photos of the city. I thought it was pretty cool. Well, the second night I was there is when the fun began. It didn't take long. I went up into the elevator like I was shown to do we had to be up in the building for 2.5 to 3 hours. Okay. But it turned out that it really just meant 3 hours, 2.5, that when I would only do 2.5 hour patrols, I would get in trouble. So we were forced to be up in the building for at least 3 hours a night. That was the tower, okay, because the control room was down in the basement. Now, the basement was just like, there was like a ramp that drove down into it, and that's where the deliveries and everything were. Then you walked up this other little ramp, and there was the basement. And in the basement, there was, if you walked out of the control room, there was like snack machines, then a little hallway that led to like a little lunchroom where they served food during the afternoon. And then there was like a shoe shine deal, which you rarely see those anymore. And they were like where you could get your shoes shine, whatever. And then they had like a little spot where I guess they used to give haircuts or something. It was defunct. It wasn't there anymore. And so this is what happened. My first night there, the second night there, patrol. First night, nothing happened because I was with Donnie and Zach most of the night, and then the lieutenant that came in to talk to me. And so I wasn't really alone that much. And then we had a night captain there at that company. They called them night captains. He showed up. He was a little guy named Lewis, really, really cool guy. So Lewis showed up, and I was with him for a couple hours. So I was barely alone the first night. The second night, I was actually alone. And the shift began at 11 and ended at 7, the average shift. Now, I did do a lot of doubles there. So anyway, second night I was there, I go to the elevator, and it kept track of you through a computer. Now, even though this was the 90s, folks and kids that are listening, we did have computers back then. They just weren't as good as they are now, but they were capable. They were capable of tracking you, and you had a DTEX that was just like a little key, a little half key, and you would punch it in on each floor to let them know that you were on that floor, and they could track how long you were on that floor. And it sent the message down to the computer down in the control room, which also created a printout. And so they knew you were where you were at and how long you were on each floor or whatever. And I kind of figured out how it worked. They really didn't care what floor you were on, just as long as you were up there for 3 hours. They didn't really seem to complain, which was kind of weird. But anyway, so I go up to the elevator, and I was shown the top floor, and then there was a penthouse, area, the roof. So I kind of knew where to go. So I knew to start at the very top floor to go check the roof, and then go to the penthouse, and then go down to the top floor. And I'm not going to tell you how many floors because then people might be able to figure it out. So anyways, I'm on that very top floor. So the elevator, the first thing it does is it just stops. And I don't know where I'm at. I don't know how far up I'm at. So I had this archaic cell phone that was the size of a freaking like a brick.
Like a brick, yeah.
And I was trying to call Lewis, and that just kept going, meh, meh, so I couldn't get through to the night captain. So I'm stuck in this elevator, then it kind of wobbles and then moves again. And I'm thinking, whoa, like this didn't happen the first day. This was the second day. So anyways, I end up, in this elevator and then it starts to move and then I can, you see the numbers, whatever, and it goes to the top floor and it just stops. And I sit there and I'm looking at my watch and I'm going like, what in the heck is going on? I'm pushing all the buttons, trying to get out. There was 2 doors. There was one front door that opened up into the elevator lobby. And then there was a service door that opened up behind me. And that's the one that opened up. This is where the adventure begins because I turn and I see nothing but pitch black. It's pitch dark. And there was a club that used to be up there that was an exclusive club. I believe Masons used to go there and have parties and get-togethers or whatever. Really rich, elite people, stuff like that. It was under renovations, I guess, at that time, they said. But there was, and so I had a big old flashlight and I shined it around and I realized that I was in the kitchen. So I began to walk into the kitchen and my flashlight literally does I'm not kidding, it just started to blink and then go out. And I thought, oh my gosh. And so then I was fumbling my way through this kitchen to try to find my way. I didn't know where I was going to go or how I was going to get back around to the elevator lobby because when we went through that area, the light was on. So I kind of closed my eyes and I thought about, okay, where was the light at? Where was I at? Where, not the light switch or whatever, but where did I come in and how did we, And so I didn't really pay attention to that part too good. And when you're a teenager and you're dumb, you don't really pay attention like you should. And Anthony,
I was going to say, you better find a light switch.
Yeah. So
it's not like in the horror movies where something goes bump at night and they don't bother to turn any lights on at all.
Yeah. So I'm fumbling around thinking, where could the light switch be? And there's no lighting anywhere. It's pitch black. There's the exit signs. You don't even see the exit signs. And so I'm fumbling around for a while, touching everything, and then I hear what I thought was breathing. And I heard it kind of like it and I'll try to recreate it. It was kind of like and it was getting more pronounced. And I thought, okay, I actually kind of got relieved a little bit because at that moment I thought, okay, these people are messing with me. All right. You start to think, okay, Zach and Donnie and them are messing with me. It's not unheard of. People play pranks. I thought, you know what? These guys, they're probably playing a joke on me because it sounded just like a person. And then, and I wasn't a scaredy cat kid. I had been, spent some time in facilities as a kid. And so I had the flashlight and I was like, you know what? I'm going to F you up. You better quit playing with me. Then I started to hear what sounded like footfall and it was coming in my direction from my left. And I look and I couldn't see anything. It was so dark. So I just went the opposite direction of that. And eventually I found some, push doors, like the two doors that fly open and they go from the kitchen. And I ended up kind of what was in like a dining room and I could feel the chairs and everything. And I knew that it was a dining room. Then I heard like a crash come from the kitchen. It sounded like pots and pans or something like I go, oh, okay. Somebody's in there. They tripped. Haha. So I go and I start feeling along the wall, trying to find a light. And eventually I did. And I got to the end and I turned it on and all it was these little lights on the far end of the dining area. That's all it did was turn those on. And I'm like, what the freaking heck? So then I had a little bit of light. And so then I looked into the kitchen and I didn't see anything. And I thought, well, that's weird. But there was enough light where you could just see in through the little windows. And I thought, okay, so if there is somebody in there, I'm not going to confront this person, because they did sound like a large person, and I was terrified. I'm not going to lie, I was scared, and so I went to grab the phone and I was trying to call, and eventually I did. I got a hold of Lewis, and I said, Lewis, I'm over here, and I'm lost. I'm stuck up here in this club, and he's like, well, you know what? I can't get to you right now until about another 30 minutes, and I'll head your way. And so I said, okay, all right. And he goes, and I'll meet you down in the control rooms. He goes, just, work your way down, into the control room, And I said, all right. So I said, I'm going to go ahead and try to find my way up to the penthouse and at least do that and then clear this floor and then go down. And so I just kind of fumbled my way. He gave me a little bit of direction, told me when I told him where I was at, he told me kind of where to go. I walked out and I did what he said, and I ended up getting to the elevator lobby. So that whole first part or whatever was scary. And here's what happened. Right when I closed the door to the elevator lobby, I heard something like moving up against it. You know how it sounds like somebody sliding up against the door on the other side of it?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what it sounded like. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, half of me was terrified. The other half was like, okay, these people are really taking this too far. Like this is, And so I thought about opening the door and seeing this person fall out and then just clubbing them like a baby seal with my freaking flashlight. Folks, I don't advocate the clubbing of baby seals, but people who mess with you, yeah, okay. So I got the courage and I opened the door. And there was nothing there. So I closed the door and I thought, man, this is freaky. I don't think I'm going to like working here. Now I know what they're talking about. This place is spooky. But you know what? I was determined because I was broke and I was poor. If I had, a situation where I live with my mom and dad and I didn't have to work like that, I would be like so many people I know and just go, well, I'm just not going to work there and just quit and just leisurely enjoy hobbies and video games and find another job until I got tired of that job because I didn't have that luxury. It was sink or swim for me. So I had to deal with it. So I make my way over to the door that goes up to the penthouse. Now, this is something that was really weird, okay? Weirder than what had just happened. There was one of those little plastic push carts that had the little wheels, where they would bring out like a serving cart. Yeah. And it had a thing of coffee beans, it was a metal tray and it had like some coffee beans in it. And was really weird. Like it was in front of the door to the penthouse and it wasn't there the night before when Donnie and them were showing me around, him and Zach. So I picked up the tray and I kind of looked at it and the beans looked like they were all melted together, which was, it was bizarre. And so I kind of poked it and I was like, ew, they're sticky. And you could like turn it and they didn't like, how when Dairy Queen hands you the Blizzard, they turn it upside down.
Yeah. They were stuck together.
They were stuck together. Yeah. And so I thought this is gross. I don't know what it is. I thought maybe they had just molded together or something, like they had been there for so long.
Yeah.
And so I just like put it back down and I moved the cart out of the way and was like, that's weird. And I opened the door and I went up into the penthouse and then I did my round on the roof and I came back down the penthouse and nothing happened up there, nothing spectacular. I did my D-Tex and all that. I go to open the door to the penthouse back into the elevator lobby and guess what? The cart is pushed up against the door so that it was literally underneath the doorknob. So at that moment, I knew, I was like, okay, these people are messing with me. They pushed this thing there. Okay, I get it. So I'm like over there yelling. So then I'm trying to call Lewis and I couldn't get any signal. You couldn't get any signal up in that penthouse. So I couldn't get out. And so I was like, okay, I'm just going to, I'm going to sit here until Lewis comes and, he'll probably just have to come up here and get me. I'll just sit here. So at that time, he was paging me. And for some reason the pager, you could get the pager was working, but the big giant G.I. Joe brick cell phone, from Vietnam was not working. And it was like it's something that had been used in the Korean War or something. And so I kept trying to call and it wasn't working. And so I just kept pushing. And so then at this point I started getting mad, because my main emotion at that age was anger. So I started kicking the door and then the little cart moved and I opened the door and I was like, dang it. I was very angry at that point. I started cussing and screaming. And when I kicked, the coffee beans had fallen off of the little cart and they were all over the floor.
So they weren't like stuck together anymore.
They were no longer stuck together. And at first I was starting to walk away. I started to just walk away and I was stepping on them and I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. These beans were like solidified, like gelled together on this metal, thing. and now they're loose, and I picked them up and they were dry. I mean, they were completely dry. So I gathered a bunch of them up and I put them, inside the little dill, and I sat there pondering it, just kind of looking at it, going like, "What? How is this even possible? Like, what happened to the like how they were all stuck together? It was almost like they were dry, fresh coffee beans. So that was really weird. So that part right there was." I can't explain that. I got in the elevator and I went back down, and like I said, this is my second night there, and I met Lewis. He showed up in the cage, which is where we parked. That's what we called it, the cage. And he called and says, "Hey, I'm out in the cage. Can you buzz me in?" And I didn't realize that he couldn't get in anyway. I would have been stuck up there. So I got him, and I said, "I think somebody's messing with me. I think it might be these guys, whatever." And he's like, "Well, I drove around the building, and I didn't see anybody. I drove in the parking garage, and I didn't see anybody. And then I went into the cage, whatever, and parked, and I didn't see anybody because I told him, that I felt like there was something going on, and there might be somebody there with me, and because I was in the kitchen." And had that incident. And he told me, he's like, let's go upstairs. Let's go look, So you could look on the computer and you could see the printout. You could see it. It would show you on the computer, like what floor. If somebody was on a floor, an alarm would go off and it would buzz on the computer. Now I could see on the computer that I was the only one who had gone up. There was no other keys that had been used to get into any of the floors. So me and him went up, and we went and we walked all through that club area. We walked all over the place. Here's what's really, really weird. Once we got over to where the penthouse was with that little tray, all the beans that had been spilled on the floor, I was telling them about it, they were all neatly put back into the little tray. And they were once again gooed and closed up. And I felt crazy trying to tell this guy that. I was, and so I didn't. I started to tell the story, and then I said, "Oh, okay, well, there's the beans in the tray." And he didn't ask any more questions about it, and I didn't tell him. So I just was like hoping that he didn't go, "What are you talking about? Beans all over the place. They're all right there, and, they're all squished together." He didn't say anything about it, so I didn't tell him. So when we go back downstairs to the control room, he sits down on the edge of the desk and he begins to not lecture me, but like tell me, "Hey, he goes, there's some weird stuff that happens in this building, in particular this one, and every time something happens, he goes, calling me is not really going to help because I have 20 something properties I have to check every night, and I might not be able to get to you to help you." He goes, "There's a lot of weird stuff that'll happen, but for the most part," he goes, "nobody's really been hurt, so."
For the most part? What do you mean for the most part?
Yeah. Well, he said for the most part, but there was an incident where someone had actually fainted, had passed out, and it was on camera. And then, luckily a janitor had come in the morning and the guy was like laying there, just had a seizure or something, The story was that the guy had gotten so terrified of something that he had a seizure and that he could never talk about it, and he ended up quitting. And of course, nobody could completely verify that story, but that was the incident he was talking about. He said that there was an incident at one time where somebody had a seizure, and the story was that he was scared into the seizure.
Wait, so I have a question.
Yeah.
Were those coffee beans on that tray was that not on camera, that area?
Yeah, it was. Mm-hmm.
And when y'all checked the camera footage, y'all didn't see anything?
Yeah, and when we looked at the camera, when I looked at the camera footage, he didn't look at it. He wasn't there very long. He just talked to me real quick and left. When I looked at the camera footage, all I saw was just me going up into the penthouse, and when I come back down, the door just like the little cart was just there, like right next to the door. And when I pushed the cart just moved. That's all you saw. So yeah, That's a good point. And it was, I knew that wasn't correct because I remember distinctly the beans falling. See, this is that stuff like that is what started to make me question my sanity, because I thought, okay, I'm losing my mind here. Okay.
So was the cart rolling in front of the door? Was
No.
that on camera?
No, it was just right there the whole time. That's what's crazy. But here's what I'll tell you. So I called Zach the next day, during the daytime, and Zach was doing the swing shift, and I called him and I said, "Hey, I'm going to come in a little bit early. I have some questions for you." And he goes, "Oh, I bet you do." And so when I showed up, I was kind of ticked off because I thought maybe him and Donnie and them were playing games, And I showed up and I said, "Do you guys make it a habit of hazing the new guy, or what's going on here?" And he's like just sitting there. He just looks at me very matter of factly. And he goes, "I knew you were going to think that." He goes, "There's one way to do this job." He goes, it's to let it get to you or just do what I do and completely ignore it. He's like, "It doesn't bother me." He's like, "Because I don't let it bother me." And I said, "Okay." I said, "So what are you saying?" He goes, "This place is haunted." He's like, "And it's haunted in a way that if you let it get to you, it can really mind F."
Yeah.
And so, he told me, he goes, "If you don't believe me, ask Donnie." I was like, he's been here for several months. He's made it. Now, Donnie had a different method of dealing with it. He would just put on headphones when he would do his rounds, and he just absolutely would not give it any at all, whatever. I got the impression that Zach was kind of fascinated by it, though. And I found some of his weird drawings and stuff that he would do that he claimed were from nightmares that he had from working there. He was an artist, very good artist, and he drew some weird stuff, and it was creepy. And like he left his sketchbook there one day, and I was flipping through it, and I thought, oh my gosh, and I was on a double, so I didn't want to. I couldn't even. I'll get into that later on. He told me about some of the incidents that had happened to him. He told me that there were faces that would appear on the floor in the basement area when you would go out to get like a pack of M&Ms and a soda. He told me that there was what looked like a spectral soldier that would walk around the grounds and people would see it periodically. He said that the convenience store right there on the corner was also haunted. It was also part of the same little grid or whatever, the same block. And he said it was haunted too. And the people that worked there, he knew them. One was a Japanese guy. It was very cool. And then there was a African-American lady that worked there. And I got to know them pretty well. And they told me some crazy stuff that happened to them on their shifts. But I'll talk about that later.
Did he describe these faces to you?
Yeah, he said that they were weird. It was like you could make them out, but that they looked like water, like rippling water, like moving. I never saw that. Thank goodness. That was something I never saw. I did hear what sounded like marbles being shot on the ground when I was in the area by where the like right where the little hall was. There was like it sounded like kids or something shooting marbles. And I heard whispering and conversations going on like all the time.
Were you able to ever make those conversations out, or just
yeah, sometimes you could hear it.
What were they saying?
One of the most one of them that really got to me was like, I heard he's coming. Like somebody was telling somebody that someone was coming, like, oh, he's coming, and then I heard like, there he is, things like that, I did see what looked like a face and what was a partial, like maybe a full bodied apparition, but no, like not say full body, it was half of a body because you didn't really see the legs of what looked like a man standing in one of the rooms, and I just ignored it. I mean, it was there was some crazy stuff. Now here's what happened. I worked the third night I worked there. Nothing went on. Like it was like the second night never happened. So I said I'm going to give it another shot, and I told myself I'm gonna work it. Nothing happened. But Zach did show up later on that night, and was real nice, and hung out with me for a couple of hours, and we went up to the top and we talked, and he brought his girlfriend. I met her. She was very nice, and they were really nice people. She was like, I will never come here. She's like, when I bring him food, she's like, I don't go to the cage. I just go out into the side of the property and let him come out and get it. She's like, I don't go in there. I've had weird stuff happen to me. She claimed that something pulled her hair one time, and she was walking down the ramp, going to the basement control room. So that was it for her. She never went back. She didn't see anything else or hear anything. She just had that happen, and that was it. She was done. When you were down in the bathroom, that was one of the things that I had talked to him about. I would hear toilets flushing up in the building all the time. You could hear it. And you're going like, why is there water running? There's nobody in the building. You're by yourself. There was a 4th level entrance from the garage, but you would see it. You would hear the little beep, 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 and you would know, and then you would just push a button and it would clear. So you would know that somebody was coming in from the 4th level, and you could see them on camera. There was one particular lady that would come in late at night once in a while. She'd come in early, I guess. She was a paralegal. And then there was a lawyer that would stay up at the very top floor, who the owner of the building, that was his lawyer. And so he let him stay up there, and he had an apartment up there, which I found out. Yeah, he had like a little apartment. He would stay up there, and he was the only one in the building hardly ever who was regularly up there. And then there would be long periods where he wouldn't be up there at all. And there would be nobody in the building but you. And there were certain spots in the building that I call sanctuary spots, because I could go into those spots and nothing would happen. And I would feel safe. So I would hang out and hide in those spots when I did my rounds. Like I said, I wouldn't have stayed if I didn't need the money. It was, So here's what happened. They hired a guy to do the opposite days of me. And so I was training him to do my job on those opposite days. Donald came in and was helping me train this guy. And he basically told the guy point blank, look, this building is haunted. If you're scared and stuff like that scares you, you can't work here. And the guy laughed. He's like, oh, okay. He was some goofy kid with, he didn't look like he was all together. He looked like somebody who did narcotics. Let's put it that way. I mean, I was just like, okay, this kid's like, he looked like he was. And so when me and Donnie were outside talking, he goes, man, that kid ain't going to make it, dog. He's like, that dude looks like he's just stoned or something. And I said, well, maybe that's a good thing. Maybe he can handle it. Maybe he'll just be stoned his whole shift. You don't have to work him. And he goes, yeah, but he'd probably be seeing something, and it'll freak him out, And he did. So, like, I think the second night, in the middle of the night, they call me up, and the field manager, the night captain, calls me up, and he goes, "Hey, I need you to come up here and finish the shift." It was 3 a.m. He goes, "This kid's not here. He's gone. I've been here for 20 minutes waiting for him. He never came back. Took the phone and everything." So I went up there and I finished the shift. It went off without a hitch. It wasn't like every day something was going on. It was like kind of like my house I lived in South Austin. This was the first time I had dealt with like a severe haunting, like just something in your face, regularly on a regular basis. And it kind of prepared me for my house. I think that's why I was able to live there as long as I did. But it wasn't all the time, because if it was all the time, to me, I compare it to like, how a spouse is abused or something.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, well, he's not always like that, and then they keep taking it because he's, I guess on some days he runs out of wild turkey and he's sober for a little bit or something. So he doesn't beat her. So she's happy. I don't know. That's what it seems like to me. It's like the spousal abuse thing, and of course, Anthony, we've had relatives who've put up with it, and they sit there and make excuses for the guy. I think we all know that. But that's kind of how you rationalize. It's like, oh, it's not all the time. It's not every day that something's going on, But when it was going on, it was ridiculous. And so, so like I remember the start of the second week. I was off the next day, and I told him, I said, I can't work tomorrow. You have to find somebody else. So I think one of the other guys had covered that guy's shift. when I had the day off, I kind of got my head clear and I went back. I was so not looking forward to going back to work there. I was, I just didn't want to be there. I didn't want to be there. And so I went through the tower working, doing my job for a couple of days. I did what Donald told me to do. I bought headphones. I wore them. I like what people nowadays would probably not even know this unless you're close to my age, a Walkman.
Oh,
Folks, what that is it's like a big clunky thing with headphones that you put a cassette tape in and you play it, and then it stops on one side and you flip it over and play the other side. So, whatever cassette you had, that's what you were going to play, So I was walking around in the building listening to, Metallica and Coolio and whatever was popular at that time. And so I didn't have to hear stuff because I was hearing whispering and noises. And I heard an argument one time in one of the rooms on the 10th floor. I opened the doors, nobody's there. I mean, it's not like a man screaming at a woman. It was stuff like that. I mean, that happened a lot. I'd see shadows. One of the most terrifying things that happened to me was like on the 8th floor. It was the 6th floor. And I was walking and I saw my shadow. Okay. And I'm kid you not, my shadow started to move independently of itself. And I'm like, why is my shadow even there? It doesn't make any sense. And then I look over and I see my actual shadow on the other side, like kind of behind me. And I'm like, that's not my shadow. It was just something that was kind of mimicking me, and then it went into the wall and was gone.
You have a shadow doppelganger.
Yes. And as I talk about this, you can see the hair standing on my arms. If you guys are looking at this, you can see this. The second week was when I was also introduced to the soldier ghost. I was in the parking garage. All right, folks. So that's all the time we're going to have for tonight. We're going to be back next week with part 2 of the stories from this tower that I worked at. I hope that you guys will tune in. These are my personal experiences that happened at a very young age. And so I'm giving you these stories. So please tune in. Thanks for listening.